Today's episode brought to you by Dick Pills. Dick Pills is a revolutionary new product that makes your wiener work again. Remember when you were 13? Terrorists could hold your mother hostage and Peter Pokeslot wouldn't stand down. But today, things are different. Wee Willie Winky won't work anymore. That's where Dick Pills comes in. Chewable? Yep. Swallowable? Mm-hmm. We even have the old kind that you have to push up your urethra with a Q-tip. Get your Dick Pills now at dick.pills. Also, we have a new product to get your wife ready for some action. We call it wine. Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk, an opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Your schlubby hosts each week are Bryce Hanson, the cool collected nihilist, and David Day, a fart from a flappy bottom. New theatrical releases always get priority, but we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible. I'm David Day.
I'm Bryce Hanson.
And you guys should check us out at our website, horrormovietalk.com. Pretty easy to get there if you can spell. I'm looking at you, guy who can't spell. You know who you are. From there, you can find links to all of our social media, even LinkedIn and YouTube. We post new podcasts every Wednesday, and every podcast gets its own post on the website with a review that goes even more in-depth, or in-depth in a different way, than our podcasts. Oh, that was quite nice.
And also, each episode post has time codes, so you can skip through parts of the episode that you don't care about.
Yeah, that'll also show up in your podcast platform under the information tabby tab.
Yeah.
So, with all that information, you surely will want to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review that is nothing short of 5 stars or however high the star rating goes on that podcast platform. We've got a great show for you today. I'm pleasantly surprised with the show that we are.
Yeah, I did not expect that I'd be excited about talking about this movie.
I really thought this was going to be a super dredge, because today we're reviewing the 3rd installment in the Annabelle series, Annabelle Comes Home. This is, of course, another installment in the Conjuring franchise, which has, well, it's had some hit or misses recently within the past 2 years. Starting, I'd say, primarily with Annabelle. It's not Origins. It's the second one. And I have
Annabelle Origins is the second Annabelle one.
No, it's not called Origins. It's called something else. Anyway, The Nun was kind of too, but this one surprisingly good. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Annabelle Comes Home. We'll start out the show by giving a brief review and our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a miserable dredge where it makes you angry that you had to watch it, 5 being an average film that hits all the expected marks and is nothing short of totally average.
Annabelle Creation.
There it is
what it's called.
Yeah. And 10 on our scoring on our score rating is so good that it transcends genre boundaries and is a horror movie that should receive Academy Award winnership in some way, but it won't because it's a horror movie. After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later in the show, we will be doing taglines, as almost always. So, without any further ado, let's get into the review. We went and saw Annabelle Comes Home, and it was a return to the roots of the Conjuring franchise, in a good way. So, let's play the trailer.
Everything you see in here is either haunted, cursed, or has been used in some kind of ritualistic practice. Nothing's a toy. It's safer for these things to be in here than out there. Sometimes it's better to keep the genie in the bottle.
Don't your parents keep any creepy stuff around?
We keep it all locked away in a room so that we're safe. It's not really good for anyone to go in there.
What'd you do to get in there? I like your doll. What did you do? I let her out. Who? Annabelle. I'm sorry. What else did you touch? Everything.
Can I play with Annabelle?
I think you have the wrong house. There's no Annabelle here.
Yes, she is.
I sometimes see things. Like how my mom sees things.
The doll, it's a beacon for other spirits.
This entry into the Conjuring franchise takes place almost exclusively within Ed and Lorraine Warren's house. While the Warrens leave to fight demons and ghosts, they hire the hottest babysitter in the universe, Mary Ellen, to watch their daughter, Judy.
Oh my god!
Dear God!
There's a big... Yeah, with the jump scares in this movie that they also included in the trailer. Lots of silence in that trailer.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of the movie.
Right.
Very much. It's a cut out of the movie. I'll start that over again because I was so distracted and scared by that jump scare. This entry into the Conjuring franchise takes place almost exclusively within Ed and Lorraine Warren's house. Ed is, of course, played by Patrick Wilson, and Lorraine played by Vera Farmiga. While the Warrens leave to fight demons and ghosts, they hire the hottest babysitter in the universe, Mary Ellen, played by Madison Eisman, to watch their daughter, Judy, played by McKenna Grace, and also Mary Ellen watches their house for them. While the Warrens are away, the children do play, and Mary Ellen's friend, Daniela Rios, played by Katie Serif...
Which is like the poor man's Mila Kunis, is what I kept running through my head.
Yeah, there's got to be some kinder way to say poor man's.
No.
Okay.
It's the best way to say it.
But it's just
like, if you want Mila Kunis, but, like, you just can't... She's booked up.
You can't justify Mila Kunis for this role because she's 40.
Well, yes, that also.
Anyway, but yeah, she does harken back to good old Mila. So Mary Ellen's friend Daniela Rios, played by Katie Serif, invites herself over to hang out at the Warrens. Daniela breaks into the Warrens' no-touchy room, storing all their super haunted shit, and ends up letting Annabelle out of her cage. Pretty quickly, these girls find themselves with more doll than they bargained for. Too much doll. Mary Ellen's crush, Bob, played by Michael Cimino, also shows up to provide a great amount of comic relief. I included Bob in this synopsis despite him being a very small character because his role is critical to this being a good movie, and Michael Cimino did a great job in the role.
Right.
While the Annabelle series had a strong start, in my opinion, this is my opinion, for some reason the rest of the world does not seem to agree with me. With the original Annabelle, the sequel was nothing short of bad. Annabelle Comes Home was enjoyable in almost every way. It had a strong script with a believable and lovable characters who were acted well by a very capable cast of young adults and children, which, I would think, is a tall order. While the pacing was a bit too fast for my taste, the movie didn't suffer from it too much, and it did an admirable job of harkening back to the long, drawn-out dread tension builds of The Conjuring 1 and 2. These actresses were great, the premise was solid, the execution was skillful, the experience was very enjoyable, and if you're looking to have a fun time with some jump scares and fake-outs, this is an even better option than Child's Play 2019, although not nearly as goofy. My score for this movie is 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm been struggling to figure out what score to give it. I think probably a 7 is where I'm going to lay, because it's definitely better than average, and it really kind of redeems itself at the end. Because it's exactly what you'd expect with a Conjuring movie. That's kind of what I expected going into it, is like, okay, I know exactly what this is going to be like. It's going to be a fair to middling jump scare movie. In the Conjuring universe, it's probably going to try to be a return to the original Conjuring movies and have a little more story. It doesn't really. Like, it's very much premise based.
It's a factory for scares and spooks.
Right. But that being said, it did meet the baseline for like character development and storytelling that is surprisingly rare in horror movies.
Yeah, and this one, not only did it meet it exceeded those quite handily, in my opinion. Like, all the characters, I understand their character. I understand their the reason they're there and what they're looking to do, and I feel empathy for them.
Yeah, I think everyone except Mary Ellen for me. I'm not really sure what her deal was.
She was the responsible young adult who was trying. This is my interpretation of it. Is she's being paid to be a babysitter, and she's trying her darndest to keep the lid on everything. But darn it, there's just all these ghosts and demons in the house.
Yeah. But that being said, I wasn't like delighted as many times as that would warrant me to give it an 8. There were some times that was like, yeah, that really worked really well, and it's really well executed. But so it's better than an average movie. But I mean, even Child's Play, the last one, even though it's a hot mess, I think I enjoyed it more than this one.
That's fair.
But I give him the same score.
It definitely boils down to kind of a taste thing.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I really do enjoy a lot of scares. And this one did it, they not only do they know the formula, it's not necessarily an easy formula. You would think it would be, but you have to throw in enough fake outs to make the actual ones, real. Or like when I think about the very best one at this, it's in recent memory, it's Terrified or Aterrados, which has the full gamut of every single kind of scare I can imagine, and it's the same movie, right? It's just a factory for scaring the pants off of you. And while this one is not nearly as skillful, it's much better than I expected, and I care about all the characters much more than the characters in Terrified.
Right. I mean, I got kind of oversold the original Conjuring movie, so when I watched them, they weren't as impressive as people were telling me. Mm-hmm. But I can admit that they're very good at being formulaic.
Yeah.
Setup, delivery of scares.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah, and most of the entries into the Conjuring universe enter a exploitative realm of, okay, all right, stop insulting the audience's intelligence,
right,
kind of thing around that. And that's why I had low expectations going to this, because we just saw Curse of La Llorona. And
that was barely an entry, though.
And this one, just basically the premise was, what you're getting going into it. It's like, okay, that room with all the scary stuff in it, and as an audience, you're like, man, what are the possibilities of that room? Like, I just want to know what everything does, and I want to be scared by everything in that room. This movie is specifically to fulfill that question, to give the audience exactly what they want from seeing that room. And I think Cabin in the Woods parodied that.
Yeah.
And this was trying to deliver that in earnest. It is kind of as ridiculous as you would think it would be, but it works.
Yeah, it does work. And you know, there's enough interesting stuff in this that so like all the bad things in that room, like they're varied and interesting and unique.
Right.
And that goes a long way for me. You know, it's like,
yeah, there is a certain point where it's probably about the first 3/4 of the movie was like, okay, it's just the generic jump scares. It's all around Annabelle. You know, okay, now you see her, now you don't. Now there's creepy ghosts coming, inquiring about Annabelle or something like that.
Is
and
Annabelle
then disappearing. And then it really like redeems itself in the last like act when the rest of the room is featured, like the rest of the stuff in the room.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes into a little bit wackier space.
Yeah.
And like it works. Like the TV part.
Oh, I love the
great.
TV. Oh man.
We can talk about the other stuff in spoilers, but
we will.
It's very much more like supernatural world of, all right, let's just take every mythical and sci-fi and Twilight Zone kind of idea and stuff it in this last act.
Give it a little conjuring twist and then throw it at you.
Right. So it works. I would recommend it for people that want to see a scary movie, and it should be noted in terms of like entry level horror. This is pretty great.
Oh yeah,
because it's PG-13. There's nothing like too offensive. It's just literally playing on your expectations.
And following on the heels of that fucking terrible sequel, did you expect? How did this happen?
I don't understand how people say that Annabelle Creation is a good movie.
I don't either.
It blows my mind. They're like, that's the good one.
Demonstrably bad.
I can't imagine how bad I haven't seen Annabelle, but I can't imagine how bad that one is.
I just got done saying it's like, in my mind, it's about this one. It's about as good as this one. Now I'm gonna go back and review that one next week because I want to test that theory. It's been a while. When I saw it in theaters, I had a great time. I was thrilled and scared. So I wonder how it'll hold up. It was only like 2 or 3 years ago. It was like 3 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago. It was like 2015 or 16, something like that. But yeah, it featured the Annabelle demon, which worked really well.
Yeah, in Annabelle Creation, I honestly had to just look it up in Wikipedia because I was thinking, did they actually tell the origin story of Annabelle?
No.
Like, because it didn't explain it.
It was such a bad movie.
Especially in this movie, it explains very early on. I don't think this is a spoiler. It just says that Annabelle isn't possessed by a demon. The demon uses her to basically play with people and possess people.
Right.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't remember there being much about a demon in Annabelle Creation.
There
it was
wasn't.
Just about... I think from Wikipedia, I remember that there was a girl that died in the beginning that was named Annabelle, and Annabelle was probably her doll or something, and then scary Annabelle things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, my beef with Annabelle Creation is that it has so little character development that
you just don't care.
I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's like exploitative. They drop off literally a bus full of orphans, and that's it. They're orphans. You care.
You care because they're kids.
Now they're gonna die.
All right, so let's get into. Well, you know what, you guys, if you want to help support the show, we do have a Patreon, and we're coming alarmingly close to the end of our Founders Club promotion, which is you pay $5 a month. to our Patreon, and you get grandfathered into all of the Patreon perks that are coming down the road. But once it goes away, which I believe is coming up very shortly, that's no longer a deal. And also, I'll send you some stickers and a thank you card in the mail, which is nice to receive a little something in the mail, a little present, a little prize. And then you can go vandalize public property with those stickers. You can also support the podcast by buying anything on Amazon. If you go ahead and click through the green button in the header of our website, it says buy stuff on Amazon or something like that. It's right next to the Patreon button that says become a patron. That'll help out our show as well. Finally, if you would like access to tons and tons of streaming horror, head on over to Shudder, that's SHUDDER.com, and enter HMT at checkout to get a 30-day free trial instead of that stupid 7-day free trial, which we hate so very much.
7-day free trial for dweebs, is what I call it.
Dorks. Bunch of dorks.
If you like throwing money away, then get that 7-day free trial.
Yeah, get that 7-day. But if you like to be a cool guy, then head on over there and enter HMT at checkout. Get that 30-day free trial. So thanks again, and let's get into spoilers. Spoilers. Bryce, do you realize that this is the third doll movie in a row that we've reviewed?
I know. June was the month of dolls. The Valley of Dolls of horror movie talk.
Bryce, do you realize that this is the fourth doll movie we've done in less than a year?
Yep.
Do you remember what the other one was?
Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich.
Yeah, so we got Puppet Master, The Littlest, in chronological order. Is to how we reviewed them. It went Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich, then Child's Play 1988, then Child's Play 2019, now Annabelle Comes Home. And Bryce, do you realize that we're recording another doll movie next week? Annabelle.
Oh, well.
Along with Midsummer. So we're going to be doing a twofer, not to be released both next week. But that's a lot of doll movies, man.
Yeah.
The fuck is...
we also have all of the Puppet Master movies that we got to review. We've got like the complete collection. That's here somewhere.
Yeah, you do have. Bryce has a.
It's got like 7 movies. Or something.
A box set of all the Puppet Master installments, which I can only assume.
Well, it's not a box. It's one DVD that has all of them.
Right.
I think
that's a box set.
It was bought at 7-Eleven for $5.
Oh, baby. So Bryce is in 7-Eleven getting a Slurpee, and he's like, oh, shit, Puppet Master. Yeah.
I mean, we had just reviewed it, and I was like, and we had talked about, like, how many of these movies are there?
Yeah.
And sure enough, there's a DVD for $5 for all of them.
You can't pass that up. By the way, you head on over to our Child's Play 2019 review, and we got a link to the Blu-ray box set of all the Child's Plays, minus the newest one. So you get that Chucky boxed set off of that. I got a link on the thing. You just click that. Anyway, so let me just start off the spoilers for Annabelle Comes Home by saying what the tagline for it is: possess them all. ... Okay. So I'm just going to let that breathe.
So it's kind of like the Pokemon.
It's kind of like the... I wasn't going to say anything.
Gotta possess them all.
Possess them all. Joke 'em all. The movie starts out with the Warrens acquiring Annabelle from some dirty hippies, or at least that's what I wanted them to be. They were probably more like young adults out of college, ? And
yeah, what was so that must have been, I assume, the connective tissue between Annabelle and the Warrens. Like the first Annabelle movie.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I've never seen it, so I can say.
It's been a while, so I can't really recall, but yes, that would make sense. And then the Warrens are like, hey, you know what? We'll keep her safe. And they're like, shouldn't we just destroy the doll? And they're like, no.
No, that'll make it worse.
That'll make it worse.
And I was like, would it really though?
And
I mean, how though? Can you give me more details about why that would make it worse? Because it seems like a pretty easy...
You're a religious man. Surely you understand the intricacies of destroying an anti-religious object, right? It disperses the evil instead of keeping it contained within the one singular thing.
Yeah, but...
This is my unprofessional opinion. Or layman.
I mean, I'd rather have dispersed evil than focused evil. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I guess that's up for debate.
Would you rather have shit in water that's 1 part per million, or would you like a log of shit inside your water cup?
Well, if I'm giving the water cup to you and you're driving away to Connecticut, then yeah, that one. I would rather not have any shit in my water. I would rather you take the shit away from me.
It's just... Okay. All right. Moving on.
So then we get so then the Warrens are I really like this beginning. It's charming and great and a total horror movie start, because then the Warrens are like, all right, another day, another dollar. They got the doll in the back seat, just sitting in the middle, like buckled up in their whatever Dodge Dart, and they're driving home down the highway, and it's approaching night, and Annabelle's buckled up. Sitting in the back seat, just smiling, having a good ride, and then the Warrens are diverted from their highway route for late night construction. Like, why? Like, it's nighttime, and they approach. This is like the 60s or whatever, and there wasn't the intricate like freeway system. It's just a bunch of kind of like scenic highways and byways kind of thing. So they approach this construction spot at night.
Those construction workers, you can't get them away from that construction site.
Yeah.
They're just real hard workers.
The construction worker is like, well, there's a diversion, so you just got to drive around. You can't go through this 15-foot patch of shit that we got going on right here. So take a 20-mile detour. And the Warrens are like, okay. which is great. I love it. Go with it. So then they're forced on this diversion to pass the creepiest graveyard in the creepiest part of the creepiest state.
Is there significance of the graveyard itself, because it says like Marysville or something? Like, is that a thing in the other movies, that specific graveyard, or is that just for this movie?
If there is, I don't know about it.
All right.
Guess.
Then spooky things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that just made me kind of smirk was one of the tropes, or one of the elements of these Conjuring movies, especially the ones that feature the Warrens specifically, so the actual Conjuring movies, is it features very, very earnest and serious talk about paranormal stuff,
right,
without a hint of irony.
Yeah.
And it's like, it shows commitment, you know? And it works. Like, in the world, you're like, okay, at least they committed to it.
Right.
That it's not just like, all right, we're making a horror movie.
Not a tongue-in-cheek
like, zombies, isn't that stupid?
It's fine, but it's not this movie.
Yeah.
That's Puppet Master.
Right. And one of the lines, for example, full seriousness, is Elizabeth Warren saying to Ed, "It's the doll, Ed. It's a beacon for other spirits."
Yeah. Yeah. She's dead serious.
And it's just very much like, here is exposition now, but you believe in this world that they would talk that seriously about this stuff.
Yeah.
Which, when you see really good-looking Hollywood actors speak, you're like, huh, those are interesting people. They must know a lot about this. In the real life, when you see like paranormal investigators and stuff, they're just a bunch of fucking nerds.
Well,
they're like,
yeah,
I'm getting this reading on the EKG meter and blah blah blah, and taking it like super seriously, and you're like, that's just kind of sad.
The interesting thing about that is I do believe that Ed and Lorraine Warren would probably speak that way. They were,
right.
I mean, for those,
but they would also in real life be those nerds, though.
Yeah. For those of you who aren't familiar with my rants on Ed and Lorraine Warren, they are the ultimate hacks. Rest in peace, Lorraine, who this movie is, at the end, you learn that this movie is dedicated to her. She passed this year, and she stole people's money by being convincing at, claiming dolls are possessed. I don't know. Maybe there's something to that, maybe. Peace of mind sort of thing for the victim.
For me, it's definitely... most of my life it's been the realm of I want to believe.
Yeah, same here.
Very, very much like X-Files of it's really exciting to think about, and I really want to like experience something, paranormal. Mm-hmm. But I never have, and the older I get and the more mature, I'm just like, that's just not real.
Yeah, it's preying on that. It's preying on that exact thing. It's people's
the more you know about
willing suspension of disbelief.
Right. The more you know about like the human psyche and how malleable it is for seeing things and remembering things, the more you're like, oh, okay, so this is all fraud.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that Family Guy bit where they're basically trying to expose Jesus as like a low level magician. He's like da 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 da, and he takes a fish and puts it behind his back, and he's got another fish back there, and he two fish, like. So I want to expand on this creepy graveyard just a little bit because I really do enjoy this first scene. So their car breaks down in front of the creepiest part, in the creepiest state, in the creepiest graveyard. And Ed is just very excited to fix the car. He's like, well, the car's dead. I'm going to get out in this creepy spot and check on the radiator. And then, of course, Lorraine starts feeling, she's the one who's in tune with the dead. And so she starts seeing all the creepy stuff going on. And then a bunch of zombies surround the car, and one of the zombies kicks Ed out into the street where a zombie semi-truck shows up suddenly and swerves just out of the way to miss Ed. And then we're given that piece of exposition where it's like, oh man, it's that doll. She's just like a tuning fork or for bad stuff, or maybe an amplifier for evil, or something like, that is given to us. She's a beacon for other spirits. So that's the premise, right? Uh-huh. That's what Annabelle is. She's basically like an amplifier for bad shit. So here's just a quick question to the audience, because I know that everybody has different opinions on this. Which is your favorite Conjuring movie and why? What's your answer to this one, Bryce? Do you have an answer?
I don't know. I'm just not like a huge fan of any of them, really. Like I can't point to anyone that stood out to me.
Let's see what we got.
I know that what the worst ones that I've seen are Annabelle Creation and Curse of La Llorona.
Yeah. So here's what we got. We got Conjuring 1 and 2, Annabelle 1, 2, and 3, The Nun, and The Curse of La Llorona.
Yeah, I think this one's up there. I'm not even sure I've seen Conjuring 2 yet.
It's pretty good.
Conjuring and this one are pretty on par. Conjuring's probably better. Because it has more of a story.
Yeah, I really enjoyed The Conjuring a lot, and you described why you didn't like it, which was it got hyped up a lot for you. Right. I went into The Conjuring with no knowledge. I was just like, oh, there's a scary movie out. Like, right. And we were at the beach, and we were with Carrie's cousin, and so we were like, you guys, we got nothing to do tonight. You want to just pop on over to this theater we've never been to and watch this scary movie? And it was great. Like, it was like it was like my experience with Hereditary, where I had no knowledge of anything about what it was going in, and then I was just very pleasantly surprised. And I think that was part of why the hype train on The Conjuring started, is because it was just this unassuming minor horror movie that did better than average. And anyway, so
yeah,
I'd say the first one. I really did not like The Nun, and I really did not like The Curse of La Llorona, and I really did not like the second Annabelle.
Yeah.
So anyway, so at this point, the Warrens get Annabelle to their room of bad artifacts, and all the artifacts are going nuts. As soon as they bring the doll in there, all the artifacts are like kind of wigging out. You can feel that shit's not right. And so they're like, well, shit, they got like the pastor there, or not the pastor. He's a Catholic clergy. He's some form of father. And he's trying to bless things, and he's just, he can't get it up. And so they're like, how do we contain the evil within this doll? And they're like, what about glass?
What about the glass from the Trinity, or what was it? It's something. It was a church name that I recognize. I can't remember, but it was just basically a church.
Yeah,
the glass from that church.
Yeah, of course it's holy glass that has to contain the doll. It can't be something not see-through.
It can't be just a cabinet.
Right. It can't be like a holy box or like a holy cupboard, which would be probably a lot easier to get home than having to worry about transporting panes of glass to your house. You just pull the cabinets out and bring them home. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so then we get introduced to the most stunning actress I've seen probably all year, Mary Ellen, who is gorgeous. Gorgeous.
I think you say this every time there's just a hot young actress in a movie, that she's the most stunning that you've ever seen.
Well, she is. At that moment, I'm being very honest. Yeah.
That really is representative of how men's minds work, though.
It is. It's a great example.
I don't remember any good-looking women. I remember this one right now, and she's the best.
What happened? 15 seconds ago, everything before that is erased in my mind. Look at that one. And then, weirdly enough, as soon as they're gone, it's gone. You're like, oh, look, it's my wife. She's so pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what the heck is that? Like, I have no control over it. I can't be blamed. I'm not culpable. So then the Warrens' child named Judy, we get to follow her through school. She's kind of sullen and sad because it's set up that, she realized she's at the age where she and all of her friends realize what her parents are, which is spooky guys.
Yeah, she's like a low-key Wednesday Addams.
Yeah, like a really low-key Wednesday Addams. That's a good analogy. Yeah, so she's reading like a little newspaper article that's describing her parents as hacks, and which they are, and so she's appropriately saddened by her hack parents and the fact that all of her peers realize her parents are at the very least spooky and at the worst total hacks. So and this is kind of where things start trying to be very spooky, like in earnest, right? Because she's followed around by this Catholic clergy who's seemingly dead.
The scariest character in the movie, a Catholic priest.
Oh. Yeah, I mean...
probably represents the most real danger to that little girl compared to any of the paranormal stuff.
It's a girl, though, so she's safe.
Well,
yeah. So anyway, this is kind of a little spot where it starts, I guess it started in the graveyard, but it really doesn't stop with like these fake outs and these little jump scares and these foreboding figures, and it is constantly giving you this like drip,
right?
This IV drip of, look, scary stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, scary stuff. Hey,
slow. Look, now you see him, now you don't.
Yeah.
It's very, very much, that should be one of the taglines for this movie is, now you see him, now you don't.
Yeah, it's
like someone blocks the view of the scary thing in the background, and then when it's unblocked, they're gone.
I wish I didn't.
Or all of a sudden they're there when they're weren't there before. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I mean, it works, I guess. But when you see through it and you're like, I know what they're doing, it doesn't work as much. But I got to say that they had really, really effective fake outs. And I can't remember exactly the one that I'm thinking of, but I think it was early on in... it was the first scene with them in the car, with the Warrens in the car. And it was really, like, really quiet.
Yeah.
And it was just looking at Elizabeth and, like, Annabelle's in the background and...
You mean Lorraine?
Lorraine?
Yeah.
No, what? Annabelle's in the background. She's in the back seat.
Yeah, but you said Elizabeth.
Warren? Oh, not Elizabeth Warren. Lorraine Warren. Lorraine Warren's running for president, right?
No.
No, it's the other one. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. And then just, like, nothing happens.
Right. That's what I really... and it sounds dumb because it's like... But I really do appreciate the fake outs where it's a long tension build and then nothing.
Yeah.
And that for me works because... You gotta
set it up for the end. You gotta build up a...
I've got a Pavlovian response here. I've seen too many horror movies, so I'm just like, there's a jump scare here, there's a jump scare here, there's a jump scare here. And when they don't throw it in, it's like, whoa, hey, wait, but what? So it kind of trips me up. I'm a dog left drooling, you know? Mm-hmm. And then we get introduced to my favorite character in the whole movie. My favorite actor in the whole movie is obviously Mary Ellen, because she's just gorgeous and I love her to death. But my favorite character in the movie is Bob, who is Mary Ellen's crush, who's the cashier at the local grocery store, which is a very 1960s, kind of like early 1960s vibe grocery store. And he's just the nice young man behind the counter working for his father's grocery store. And they establish a little crush there.
A little goofy puppy love. The one thing that didn't work for me, but it's like, you can't, it's a movie or whatever, but if they had made him a little more goofy looking, it would have worked a little more. The dude, I mean...
Yeah, he's a stunner.
I'm secure with my masculinity.
Yeah.
He was a very, very good looking fella.
Yeah, he sure was.
There's no girl that would look at Bob and be like, Bob? Why would I go out with Bob?
Yeah, he's
a beautiful, like, athletic bodied young man with the voice of an angel.
Fucking slayer,
that will
man.
Serenade you.
That kid slays the girls, like, just left and right, I'm sure, because he's disarmingly beautiful.
Right.
You know?
And then the recurring joke with him is Bob's got balls.
Yeah, Bob's got balls.
His nickname is Balls. And because he's doesn't quite make sense because he's not extremely forward.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of goofy.
He's very earnest.
Yeah.
And the actor who plays him does such a great job because there's no way you can dislike Bob. No one. I defy you to go into this movie, and even with the preconceived notion of I'm going to hate this guy. I haven't seen the movie yet. I just heard David and Bryce challenge me to hate him. You're not going to be able to because he's just that next door guy who is. Right. Who's going to help you wash your car or whatever, right. or change the bearings on your skateboard? I don't know. Whatever. He's a nice guy. Which brings me to a point. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would have preferred that, like, there's a point in when she asks him how he got his nickname or why they call him Balls or something. I would have just preferred if they just said, oh, it's because I have just gigantic testicles. I have abnormally large testicles.
It's a condition.
Yeah.
So this brings me to a point. Really great acting by a young cast, which seems like it would be hard to accomplish, but we're seeing more and more of it. Remember Ma? We just got done with Ma. Mm-hmm. Great acting in Ma. I think even better acting by a young cast in this one, although it's a little bit smaller cast.
I think for me, I'm entering the realm of old manhood where I can't actually discern the difference between teenagers and early 20s now.
Yeah, it is.
To where, like, all the actors, they're actually, probably like 25. But to me, they're like, wow, these teenagers can really act.
Yeah, so, like, for example, the actress playing Mary Ellen is something like 22 or 3, and she looks like she's 16.
Yeah.
Now,
but then you see a 16-year-old, and you're like, oh, wow, I forgot that there were humans that tiny.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So everything is amplified by, and then you see, like, a 70-year-old man, and you're like, that's, like, almost in the grave.
That's like... No, I see a 70-year-old man. I'm like, oh, well, that's like 5 years away from me.
Yeah. That's a different problem, I think.
Oh.
So, also, a lot of good camera work in this movie for a horror movie. Like, over-the-shoulder, tight camera work, which is kind of the thing that The Conjuring pioneered, or at least the trend that it really kicked into high gear. Like, over-the-shoulder, tight camera work is utilized a lot. Close shots of the face or objects so that you can't see around them, but you want to see what's going on around them.
Yeah, it's good camera work. It looks really good, too. I think the one thing that bothers me about Conjuring movies, and I've said this before, and it doesn't do it as much in this movie, is the spooky house syndrome of let's make the set design and all of the scenes be as spooky and dark and weird and old and cobwebby and stuff as possible. And they didn't do it as much in this movie.
This was a dark movie. It was...
But, yeah, I mean, it was dark, but at least they said it at night.
Yeah.
Like, it made kind of sense. But then towards the end, like, the last act, I kept asking myself several questions of, like, why don't they just, turn on the lights?
Yeah. Oh,
They're walking around with flashlights in your own home.
And when the lights are on, it's still the darkest fucking place on earth. It's like, what are these 10-watt bulbs? What's happening? Why is it so dim in here?
Yeah, and...
Was the 60s just a dim time?
Yeah. It was brown and yellow tinted. Then the other thing, this is like a wider thing, even just the doll Annabelle itself, I can't take it seriously looking at Annabelle, like the close-ups of Annabelle's face. Because, number one, who would give that doll to a child?
Yeah.
Like, what universe does that doll exist in? Or did she ever look like a new doll? I don't remember Annabelle Creation, her looking like a new doll that wasn't the fucking creepiest thing in the world.
Yeah, she looks like a wooden, what are those? A ventriloquist doll.
Yeah.
You know, like she really does, and it's disconcerting.
But not just that, it's like...
Made up scary.
Extreme, like, 100-year patina.
Yeah.
With, like, weird scars and, like, blood scratches stuff.
Yeah.
Have you seen the original Annabelle, like the Annabelle that she's actually based off of?
Yeah,
it's based off of an actual...
It's a Raggedy Ann doll.
It's a Raggedy Ann.
Yeah, and not just a Raggedy... Like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Just a Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah.
It is... When I say Raggedy Ann, Raggedy Andy, that exact doll.
Yeah. And it's just this stuffed doll.
Standard. No.
With yarn hair.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is it is in a glass case with like these words on it that are like, absolutely, positively, stay away, demons inside. And this little cute little Raggedy Ann doll sitting there like, eh.
Yeah. So, and then that just underlines the question of, were the actual Warrens just gigantic trolls?
Yes.
And they're like, no, these suckers will buy this.
Yeah.
Look at this completely normal Raggedy Ann doll. Nope, this is an evil doll.
Yeah.
Don't go near it. Don't go near it. Now give us your money so we can
take a picture.
Exercise your spirits.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a thing with the Conjuring movies, is spooky for the sake of spooky.
Yeah. And
this gets into one of the topics that I've wanted to talk about for a while. Is it feels like there's two like subsets of horror movie fans. And I think the bigger one is the one that enjoys the horror aesthetic more than like the
the art,
horror itself.
Yeah, the actual. Yeah, you're probably right.
Because they're the people that are like complaining, like, "Oh, it's not scary," or they watch Hereditary or something. They're like, "Oh, it's so boring," and it's not even a horror movie. But
right.
I think they're the same ones that
because there wasn't a monster or there wasn't like
it wasn't super dark,
a big kill count or body count or like there wasn't gore, appropriate amounts of gore or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't want to bag on people that enjoy that, but I think it's definitely a thing to point out is that there are people that are big fans of just the aesthetic of dark, goth stuff, people that get all tatted up with horror tattoos and stuff. Like, that's definitely a thing, and especially people that...
It's a strong lane in the horror genre. Yeah. I mean, it's Rob Zombie's whole career.
Right. People that really love zombie movies are more loving them for the zombie aesthetic than the actual movies itself. I don't know, to me.
Yeah, I think with zombie movies, there's a few different lanes of people. There's like the prepper version person who likes theorizing what they would do in the event of a zombie apocalypse. There's the gore person who you're talking about who just enjoys the aesthetic.
Yeah,
and then there's that's and then there's for a lot of the classics there's the person who enjoys the art of the actual. Actual filmmaking.
I guess that's what bothers me about movies that use that shorthand of the aesthetic of like, this is scary because it looks like a horror movie.
Right.
And it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, it's a bit of a crutch, first of all, which, it's an effective crutch for a lot of people, so why not use it? But it's a solid story it does not make.
Yeah.
Alone.
So for me, I'm like, some of my favorite horror movies, just look like movies.
Right.
Or they look like normal. That's the scariest thing for me, is when stuff looks completely normal.
When real life...
scary stuff happens.
Yeah, when real life becomes alarming.
Right.
Which is why you guys should tune in next week for the movie that we've been waiting for ever since we heard about it, over 8 months or so, Midsummer, from the maker of Hereditary. Oh my God, I'm so excited. How am I reviewing Annabelle Comes Home? And next week we get to see Midsummer.
Okay. All right, moving on. Sorry, that's my little rant about horror aesthetic.
So the over-under on this movie is Mary Ellen is watching Judy, the Warrens' kids, at the Warrens' house, and her friend shows up, Daniela shows up, and she fucks everything up really bad.
Yeah, it's even in the trailer. What did you touch?
I touched everything. Yeah.
And there's this great part where she asked, I have it written down, just a second. Oh yeah, so first of all, this is very much the scene of everything she touches, you should be telling yourself, here are all the things that we'll need to see later.
Yeah.
Like, this will be important later.
Right.
Very much. And, yeah, pretty much everything that is featured on the camera in that scene is later shown in the finale. And then she asked the room, if there is a presence in this room, please give me a sign. And I really wish it just would have gone, like, completely nuts, like...
Yeah, like a arcade room.
Yeah.
She just won the grand prize at a casino or something like that.
I wish it would have been like the elevator scene in the Cabin in the Woods. Just everything just goes crazy, and then later in the movie that actually does happen.
Yeah. It's a great scene.
Yeah,
and so. Yeah, so basically, things start getting out of control once she physically breaks into the room with all the warning signs all over it. She's got 9 locks on the door. She searches really hard for the key. She breaks in there, and the idea behind why she's doing this is she knows that the Warrens have some connection with the dead, and Daniela lost her father when she was young, and she blames herself for the accident that caused his death.
Yeah, this is actually like the part where I turned the corner on it, because I was asking myself about a quarter of the way in, while she's looking at these objects and stuff, I'm like,
why are we here?
I don't really care about any of these characters at this point, or I especially don't care about her. She's just set up to be, okay, this is the the transgressive girl. It kind of uses the trope of the harlot,
right?
The
non-virgin,
the non-virgin in horror movies. You're like, okay, this is a archetype that they are using in this movie, and then in one word, it gives her like all the character development that I need. She's in this room, and I think something moves, or something. Or she asks to hear if there's a presence, and then she says, "Dad?"
Yeah.
Which is great. You don't know anything about her situation up to this point, or why she's interested in this room at all. And then in one word, you're like, oh.
Well, that's so tragic and sad.
Her dead dad, she really wants to connect with her dad. And like, that is, to me, a sign of really, really good screenwriting. It has the...
effort.
Has the
some
awareness that you don't have to say in exposition in a scene earlier, oh, my dad died in a horrible car accident and I really miss him a lot. Do you think your parents could connect me with my dead dad?
Right.
And then have her go searching through the house. And there are plenty of movies that would do that.
Yeah.
And they don't do it. They just let you find out.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So the reason she's there is to try and reconnect with her dead father, which is, it's probably not the best way to go about it, but hey, she's a young girl. She does make good decisions. So there's a lot of knocks at the front door on this movie. The front door is off the chain, Bryce.
Right.
Like, knock, 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 ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Everybody's showing up. As soon as Annabelle, as soon as Daniela, she's in that room. She's like, somebody give me a sign. Nothing gives her a sign. She starts walking out the door, and then bong, there's a bong at the back of the room, and Annabelle has leaned herself over and tapped on the glass. Tap, tap, and she walks up to the friggin' glass, and it says, don't open, positive, don't go in here. It's got everything except like a nuclear waste sign on the door. And so she opens it, of course, and then shit hits the fan because you kind of hear like the spirit of all these different objects like roaring back into all these objects. But so there's dead things knocking at the front door, and so you're kind of trained to go, oh, something's at the door. Well, one of the knocks at the door is Bob, and he shows up and he's like, "Hey, Mary Ellen, like I just heard you were babysitting here, so just
hi."
And she's like, "You can't come in, Bob. Like I'm being paid. I'm the good girl." And at the same time, the pizza dude shows up, who is brilliant, hilarious fun. I love the pizza guy, and he deems Bob has balls. He's the guy who coins Bob as the guy with balls because, damn, showing up to see Mary Ellen. Way to go, Bob. That would take some balls. And it was very funny. I can't remember exactly why, except the pizza dude was just a cornball.
Yeah, it was a really great comedic relief moment.
So now basically we get into all the different monsters. So there's a bunch of different spooks and monsters. I'll kind of go down the list, and you can interject with why you did or didn't like them as you see fit. So there was the knife-wielding dead bride with blood all over her. And she was a mainstay. She was probably the first one, I think. We got another like side story with, it's not even a story really. It's just kind of like following Bob outside the house with the hellhound. So there's like this werewolf thing chasing Bob around the house.
Yeah. I mean, this is like where it goes. This enters like, all right, we're just going to be kind of goofy now, but for some reason it still has the tone of seriousness.
It's fun. The Hellhound is my favorite one,
right,
because it's the one that follows Bob.
Yeah.
And Bob gets trapped in the hen house with his
And the chicken gets out. He's like, "Oh no.
No chicken,
No, chicken, come back.
Don't go outside."
And he closes the door of the chicken coop. He's like, "I'm sorry."
And then you hear the chicken, "Bark, bark, bark," and he's like, "Oh no, the poor chicken." Yeah, it worked really well.
Yeah.
Because you were scared. Like, Jesus Christ, the door of the chicken coop comes, and that dumb that chicken was the most chickeny chicken I've ever seen. My parents have chickens, since I was a little kid, and they're so uniquely chickeny. If you've been around for chickens for a little bit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're just fucking dense, you know?
Yeah.
And this chicken just chickens out, gets eaten up.
Yeah, I mean, chickens are definitely the animal that if you feel bad about eating animals, just walk around a chicken for a while. You're like, all right, I don't feel bad about it.
But that's not a fair comparison. It's comparing like a dolphin to a worm, you know? I mean, chickens are so dumb.
Yeah.
So then we got the Feely Mealy game, which is one of my favorites, which is a Milton Bradley game, I guess, that I'm not familiar with. It may or may not exist in real life, where you have to stick your hand in a dark box and feel around, and you can just guess whatever's in there.
Yeah.
That Feely Mealy thing.
It's scary. You can't see it. You can't see it.
Probably the most notable thing from the Conjuring franchise that I can think of, at least in terms of a physical presence, is that samurai suit in the artifact room. He makes quite an appearance. And then my favorite one in, I'd say, the whole movie, besides the Hellhound, is the future telling TV.
Yeah, a TV that is also a camera that shows the future. Somehow.
Right. So
yeah, that was like, all right, I get where we're going here. Like, okay, this is like, it's just shoving in every weird, scary sci-fi thing into it.
Yeah,
it's a great device. It actually really works really well. Out of all the ending very much is just all about setups and delivery. It really doesn't worry about much storytelling other than all this stuff happens, and it separates all of the characters. It separates the three girls, and each one of the girls has specific things happen to them.
Yeah,
you know. But that one stood out. That one was like unique and creative and interesting. Like, it took all of the, all right, I see something down the hall. I'm moving slowly. I'm going to open this door real slow. What's behind the door? What's behind the door? Nothing. Oh, it's behind me.
Yeah.
That's it. That happens like, 5 times at least.
Yeah.
And each time they have to take like the slow, like 2-minute long setup to do it. And you're
tension
like, all
build.
right. But the TV was unique. It's like, okay, this enters into sci-fi realm, and it's a unique concept.
It is a unique concept.
All right, I'm on board.
I was so thrilled with the TV because it immediately felt like a completely new and foreign scare device, and it
only works in a one scene premise.
Right?
Like, you can't build a movie off of that TV.
No. Yeah, this is the perfect place for this scare vehicle.
Yeah.
And so basically what it is Daniela's in the artifact room, and this TV turns on, and it shows her walking up to the TV and looking deeply into it and being confused. And then, of course, that's what she does because the TV turned on, and it's got her in it looking at her, essentially, so it's like a mirror almost, but a mirror looking into the future. And and then, things happen behind her ahead of time in the TV, and then they happen behind her, after the fact in real life. So it's like she's being forced to watch her future unfold, and man, if that happened in real, if that happened in real life, that's exactly how it would happen, I guess. I don't know. Right. It's just a silly thing to postulate, but So, and then, of course, there is also one of the other more effective spooks in this was the Undertaker with coin eyes. He was great. He kept dropping coins throughout the house for Mary Ellen to find, and his eyes would reflect her dying flashlight. Of course, the flashlight dies. Mm-hmm. One of the minor problems that kind of niggled at me during this long scarefest was none of the girls seemed to realize or care that they were separated from each other in this very small house. It wasn't like, hey, Daniela, where are you? Or like Judy, or hey, Mary Ellen. There was none of that. It was just like, we're in this almost ranch style home with a basement.
Yeah, and supposedly they're looking for each other, right?
No, they weren't.
What are they doing?
I don't know.
They're just around
they're separated by 50 feet, experiencing totally separate scares throughout the. I don't know. It was.
And then this movie features the most soundproof doors in any 1960s house in the world.
Yeah,
you hear them screaming, "Help! Ah!" And then it shows the outside of the door, and it's like, like, all right, so they can't hear each other in a
it's silly
1,200 square foot house. All right.
One of the more effective parts in this whole Scarefest was the bells ringing. Lorraine Warren is a collector of bells. Soul bells or something like that. And at one point they all ring at once. It gave me chills.
Yeah.
And of course, the scariest thing of all in this movie is asthma. Mary Ellen has an asthma attack, which
had never been mentioned before.
Never had been mentioned. But if you think about it, that's the one thing in this house that could actually kill you.
Right.
Aside from maybe the samurai sword.
Yeah, I mean, it even shows the bride stabbing poor man's Mila Kunis, and she's not actually harmed. It looks like she's stabbed, and she freaks out like she got stabbed.
She thinks she got stabbed.
But then there's nothing.
Nothing. I would, I'd just like to say I'd love to drag that screaming blonde around the house. I'd love to. She got dragged around that house a lot, but I'm just saying, if you need somebody to drag you around the house screaming, I'll do it.
Jesus.
I'm not going to make you scream. I'm just saying, if that's your thing.
That sounds like that's your thing.
No, it's not.
I mean...
No, it's not.
It sounds like you want a screaming blonde.
I know how it... I mean, I think you're projecting a lot of things onto me right now.
I mean, what about the implication?
What implications?
It sounds like you want to rape that girl.
Whoa! Excuse me? Wow. No. First of all, that is patently untrue. I'm just saying, she was dragged around the house by her hair a lot.
I mean, why does she have to be screaming?
She doesn't.
Why is that enjoyable to you?
It's not. I'm saying, if you need that, I can provide it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
About you, David. I'm keeping an eye on you.
There's some there's some vomiting into mouth in this movie. Of course, no horror movie would be complete without mouth blood vomit.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the only actual possession in the movie whose taglines is "possess them all."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's very little demonic possession.
All the rest of it is possession attempts.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And then things wrap themselves up. I'm not gonna go way deep into it because it's not super notable, but as things wrap up, the house is clean. They get Annabelle back into her box, and
the evil has been contained.
The evil has been contained once again. And the girls all say, they make a pact with each other as the Warrens are coming home, and they say, I like this a lot. They say, okay, girls, we tell the Warrens everything. And my addition to that is, okay, the Warrens walk up to them and they're like, how'd it go? And the girls are like, okay, don't be mad, but... And that's their intro into telling them everything. Okay, don't be mad. Because that's how I would do it every time.
Right.
I'd be like, okay, Carrie, I have some bad news. Don't freak out. It's I have some bad news. Don't freak out is That's the cue to freak out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there were some cool credits at the end of this. I like the little montage-y sort of artsy way they did the credits, and they had some cool music. Pretty good soundtrack in this whole thing, too. So, final recommendations. Who do you suppose would enjoy this movie?
It's a great date movie. It's a good general audience horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's no really, like, gatekeeping around this movie. Like, if you want to see a scary movie, this will scare you.
Very accessible. It's a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
Which is surprising to me considering the second Annabelle. I really thought this was going to be a hot poop. Yeah, I would agree. I'd say, yeah, anybody if you're going to
see a doll movie this weekend, see Annabelle Comes Home.
Well, I don't know. There's Child's Play and Annabelle. I'd say
Toy Story.
And Toy Story. Jesus
Toy Story
Christ. 4. What the fuck is going on? So, yeah, I would say if you're looking for goof factor to 11, like slasher, definitely go see Child's Play. And if you're looking for a scary movie, see Annabelle Comes Home.
Right.
Okay, and with that, let's get into taglines. Here's taglines. I forgot to play my clip. Darn it. So I'm going to go back a little bit to before we said this is taglines and say, so when she let Annabelle out of the cage, when she opened the cage, it reminded me of a part in Simpsons, in The Simpsons, where, where the kids are watching one of those crappy 1970s, like how a bill gets passed in Congress. Parodies.
Oh, we'll get flagged by it.
Oh, we will?
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
we got flagged by the Cletus slack-jawed yokel theme song.
Jesus, dude, taking all the fun out. Well, I'll put the video with the timestamp into the post. So go check it out. It's where Ted Kennedy tells the Bill. He's like, "Hey, it's over, Bill. Good news, you passed." And the Bill goes, "Doors open, boys!" And all the Bills come running up the steps of Congress, and they're like, "Woo!" And they're shooting guns, and they got a bomb, and whoop, 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 whoop. And that's exactly what happened when they let Annabelle out of the cage. All the objects were like, "Woohoo! Doors open, boys!"
If it's just that part, it'll do fine. If it's the actual song, I think it'll get flagged.
Let's not risk it. I've already gone into detail.
All right.
Yeah, man.
See the post.
Yeah, go check out the post. It's at horrormovietalk.com. So without any further ado, let's get into taglines.
Annabelle Comes Home. It'll give you the feely-mealies.
So mine, let's remember the real tagline, possess them all. Mm-hmm. Gotta possess them all. I have, it's so, like, I can't get it out of my head.
Mm-hmm. Annabelle Comes Home. Scary peekaboo.
Yeah.
That could really be, that should be the franchise name. It shouldn't be the Conjuring universe. It should just be Scary Peekaboo universe.
Scary Peekaboo universe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like it. Annabelle Comes Home. Gotta touch that doll.
Jesus. Annabelle Comes Home. When you play with this doll, a demon plays with you.
Ew. Yeah. Annabelle Comes Home. Gotta guitar that dog. Remember when Bob threw the guitar at that dog? That was great.
All right, how many of these do you have? We can be here all day. Okay, Annabelle Comes Home. Less orphans, more sweater puppies.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, man. So many sweater puppies in this movie.
They're the real star.
The real star.
The real star of this movie is sweater puppies. That should have been the tagline.
Bob's got balls. Yeah, so mine are all very bad. You can rake me over the coals appropriately on Facebook, Twitter, or I don't know, YouTube, Reddit, something. You just tell me how bad I am. I love it. And with that, that's Tagline. Thanks again very much for listening to our show. We sure do appreciate it. Make sure to share it with a friend. That makes a huge difference for us. We rely on web traffic, and when you share the post with a friend or share it on your Facebook or your Twitter or something like that, it makes a big difference in helping us get more people to the website. So please share this post or find it on Facebook and then share it. Also, if you want to support the show, you can head on over to Shudder and enter HMT at checkout. That's shudder.com. And HMT at checkout gets you 30 days free trial to stream tons and tons of great horror. The first ever Russian horror movie is featured on Shudder right now. It's called Vi, spelled VIY. And that's notable because it's the first Russian horror movie ever made. I haven't watched it yet, but
That's the first Russian horror movie ever?
I don't know. That's from the email that I got from Shudder. That's how they kind of positioned it.
Huh. All right.
It's not new. It's from long ago.
Okay. So
it's from the 50s or 60s or something like that.
Okay, I see. I was going to say.
Yeah. Also, if you'd like to support the show, head on over to our website, horrormovietalk.com. Click on the link, one of the links at the top, either the Amazon link to do your shopping on Amazon. That gives us a little piece of whatever you buy. It could be a couple cents, which is not a drop in the bucket, and it could be a couple of bucks depending on what you buy and how much you spend on it. So do that, or click on that Patreon button right next to it, become a patron, and you will, if you do it quickly, you will get into the founding members club for only $5, and that gets you access grandfathered into all of the tiers forthcoming that will be coming in July, to all the different patron sizes, packages, tiers. And with that, thank you very much. We appreciate everything you guys do for us, and we'll see you next week with what we are most excited for, probably this year or maybe ever, our review of Midsummer. We are super excited. So have a great week and join us next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.